Millionaire promised the world to his pregnant wife, then gave it to his mistress. In the sprawling hills of Bel Air, a powerful millionaire named Jonathan Carlisle seemed to have it all: wealth, prestige, and an adoring wife, Sophia, who carried his unborn child. To the outside world, Jonathan's life was a triumph of ambition and lavish success: private jets, shimmering parties, A-list connections, and even a nod from the likes of Elon Musk at an exclusive dinner. Yet behind the marble walls and crystal chandeliers lay a disturbing secret, poised to shatter their golden existence. What Sophia never anticipated was that the man who vowed to give her the world would hand that grand promise to another woman, his beautiful mistress. Jonathan Carlisle was born into privilege, the only child in a Newport Beach household that thrived on Robert Carlyle's international shipping empire and Anna Carlisle's revered interior design. From a young age, Jonathan exhibited charm and business acumen, sealing deals by the time he was 20. His rapid ascent in the family company, Carlisle and Sons Imports, turned him into a respected player among high society circles. Often hobnobbing with Hollywood starlets and hedge fund magnates, he grew adept at forging powerful connections, including fleeting alliances with the likes of Bill Ackman. Yet, behind the glossy veneer, Jonathan felt an unspoken loneliness, believing nobody truly saw beyond his wealth. One evening, at a charity ball he sponsored in Los Angeles, Jonathan encountered Sophia Carter, the event's unflappable publicist. A newcomer from a small Oregon town, Sophia possessed an unassuming confidence. Though she faced relentless paparazzi and combative donors, her quiet composure never wavered. Intrigued, Jonathan struck up a conversation and found himself unraveling stories of her modest upbringing and passion for community service. Their rapport was instant, fueled by sincerity rather than status. In her, he saw a warmth that transcended the glitzy world he knew. In him, she discovered a man determined to find purpose beyond financial success. As their relationship bloomed, tabloids buzzed with speculation. How had the polished millionaire heir fallen for an unpretentious PR professional? Photos of them boarding private jets or strolling down the Champs-Élysées circulated widely, capturing a fairy tale romance. Jonathan's prestigious circle murmured that Sophia might not fit into his glamorous life, yet her unwavering independence stood out in a realm driven by appearances. Even so, the whispers soon shifted toward a different subject: rumors of Jonathan's hidden side. The man who dazzled Los Angeles galas was said to maintain secret flings and dangerous liaisons, a relic of a wilder past. In particular, an enigmatic socialite named Veronica Morgan stoked the greatest speculation. She trailed Jonathan through exclusive events, greeting him with too familiar touches and lingering smiles. Her presence at every extravagant party made Sophia uneasy, especially since Veronica seemed well informed about the Carlisle empire's affairs. Rumors hinted at a shadowy bond between Veronica and Jonathan, one they both guarded behind polite smiles and closed doors. Jonathan tried to reassure Sophia, dismissing stories of Veronica as mere gossip. Yet Sophia, attuned to detail, questioned why the socialite always appeared where her boyfriend ventured. Could Veronica's blatant proximity be mere coincidence? Tension gnawed at Sophia's confidence. She glimpsed the wealthy circle's unspoken rules: secrets silently traded amid champagne toasts, handshakes sealed with intangible promises. Meanwhile, Jonathan felt torn. He cherished Sophia's authenticity, but struggled to discard the reckless spark that once found solace in clandestine affairs. As Carlisle and Sons expanded, and as talk circulated of an ambitious real estate venture, he faced mounting pressures. No matter how diligently he worked, the rumors of Veronica Morgan's involvement loomed, threatening to unhinge the fragile trust he was building with Sophia. Each encounter with Veronica brought fresh anxiety, her cryptic words implying a closer relationship than he dared admit. Although Sophia and Jonathan's love seemed strong, the cracks began to show. Between the extravagant galas, paparazzi ambushes, and swirling speculations, their once simple bond now felt precarious, poised on a fault line of revelations. Jonathan hoped he could preserve the dream he'd finally found. But deep down, both he and Sophia sensed that promises and truths often clashed in a world where wealth and desire blurred moral boundaries. The stage was set for a showdown of loyalty, ambition, and secrets, as destiny prepared to test their precarious new love. It was a stiflingly hot afternoon when Sophia first suspected she might be pregnant. She had been busy organizing a fundraiser for underprivileged youth, running on minimal sleep and too much coffee. When a wave of dizziness nearly toppled her at the podium, a concerned intern rushed over with a chair and a bottle of water. Sophia tried to shrug it off. She was certain it was just fatigue. But a faint, persistent thought tugged at her. That evening, she confided her suspicion to her best friend, Carmen, who immediately ushered her to the nearest pharmacy. One pregnancy test quickly turned into three, 2 faint lines, another 2 faint lines, and a digital screen that read pregnant. Shock followed by exhilaration coursed through Sophia's veins. She and Jonathan had never explicitly talked about having children this early in their relationship, but neither had they opposed the idea. They were in love, after all, and building a future seemed like the next logical step. Her mind raced. Would Jonathan be thrilled? Worried? With all his responsibilities and the swirling rumors, would a baby bring them closer or push them apart? And what about her own career? Was she ready to shift her life's focus? Despite the avalanche of questions, a maternal warmth enveloped her. She had always wanted a family. The next day, she invited Jonathan to a quiet breakfast at their favorite cafe, hoping to choose the right moment to share the life-changing news. Jonathan arrived late, looking harried. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages about an urgent deal in Dubai. He offered an apologetic smile as he settled across from Sophia. Inwardly, she felt a pang of anxiety. Was this the right time? Yet as she gathered the courage to speak, she reached across the table to still his fidgeting hands. "I have something important to tell you," she said softly. Jonathan met her gaze, momentarily pushing his phone aside. "You look serious," he replied, concern etched on his face. Sophia inhaled deeply. "I'm pregnant." Time seemed to freeze in that little cafe as onlookers went about their own breakfasts, unaware of the seismic shift unfolding at one tiny table. For a moment, Jonathan's expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, a broad smile broke across his lips, followed by a short laugh of sheer astonishment. He rose from his seat, pulled Sophia into an embrace, and kissed her forehead. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice trembling with excitement. She nodded. "I've taken 3 tests." "3?" he echoed, and they both laughed. He lowered himself to her eye level and said, "We're going to be parents." The gravity of it hit him all at once. For a man who prided himself on meticulous life planning, this was a curveball that felt simultaneously overwhelming and miraculous. But any doubt he might have had was overshadowed by genuine joy. He wanted to protect Sophia, to provide for her, to ensure they had the best care money could buy. And yes, deep down, he also felt the weight of having an heir to the Carlisle legacy. That afternoon, Jonathan arranged a surprise. He picked Sophia up in his sleek Aston Martin, a bouquet of lilies in hand, and drove her to a private estate overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The estate was set up for a small reception, with a handful of close friends waiting. He toasted to Sophia's health and to their unborn child, tears glistening in his eyes as he declared his love for her. This child, he vowed, would have the world at their feet. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Sophia felt a peaceful certainty that life was moving in the right direction. Jonathan's friends, men like Dylan Maxwell, a real estate tycoon, and Caroline Zhao, an acclaimed fashion designer, congratulated them warmly. Even Robert Carlisle, Jonathan's father, offered a rare display of emotion, hugging his son and whispering words of approval to Sophia. But while their friends toasted and cameras flashed for what promised to be the start of a blessed new chapter, far away in the hush of a dimly lit lounge, a scandalous rumor was brewing. Veronica Morgan, wearing a shimmering silver dress, tossed back a flute of champagne and smirked as she looked at her phone. The text she'd just received was from Jonathan himself, albeit from an older thread. "Can we meet soon? I have a surprise for you." It was dated a few weeks ago, but it still lingered in her phone's memory like a ghost. That promise he'd made about having the world in the palm of their hands wasn't something Veronica intended to let slip away, baby or not. Jonathan's vow to give Sophia the world was more than just a flippant remark. He began by making grand plans for her, a custom-designed nursery in their Beverly Hills home, featuring handcrafted furniture, state-of-the-art safety systems, and whimsical murals of enchanted forests. He hired a famous Italian architect, Marco Bellini, to oversee the renovations. No expense was spared, from organic crib mattresses to museum-quality artwork meant to stimulate a young child's mind. Sophia, meanwhile, was overwhelmed in a good way. She'd never dreamt of living with such opulence. In her hometown of Hillside, Oregon, a baby shower would consist of homemade cupcakes and a second-hand stroller. But Jonathan insisted that this child was their future, and he intended to invest wholeheartedly in it. He even discussed purchasing a second vacation property in Lake Como for the family to escape to when they needed a break from the city. Beyond material gifts, he lavished Sophia with emotional support, attending her prenatal appointments, reading every parenting book he could find, and even talking to her belly at night as if the baby could already hear him. In public, Jonathan proudly declared his intentions to anyone who asked. He wanted to be the best father possible. This baby would unify his life's purpose, to transform the Carlisle empire, not just for personal gain, but for the legacy he'd leave behind for his child. He also spoke of marriage. Though they'd been dating for over a year, the idea of marriage had always been on the table in vague terms. Now, with the child on the way, Jonathan was determined to formalize their relationship. "Let's make it official," he told Sophia one evening as they shared a quiet dinner at home. She looked at him with misty eyes, touched by his sincerity. Yet, despite her joy, she hesitated. The swirl of attention, the sudden shifts in their lives, and the lingering feeling that something was amiss held her back from giving an immediate yes. "Can we just take it step by step?" she asked. "I want our child to be part of the wedding, to witness our vows, maybe when he or she is a little older." Jonathan smiled and squeezed her hand. "I understand," he said, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He took that as a sign that she wanted a more intimate family moment, rather than a rushed ceremony. He agreed to wait, confident that in due time Sophia would become his wife. Behind his unwavering support for Sophia, however, Jonathan harbored a secret sense of guilt. He couldn't deny that before the pregnancy. He'd allowed his flirtation with Veronica Morgan to escalate into a few discreet liaisons, moments he pretended were lost in a haze of champagne and misguided loneliness. Though he'd abruptly ended any ongoing affair with Veronica, he hadn't confessed to Sophia about these indiscretions. Every time Sophia glowed with excitement over the baby, he felt another pang of remorse. He convinced himself that it was all in the past, that he could be a better man now. Yet Veronica had not let him go so easily. She maintained a facade of friendliness at public events. Sometimes she would corner him in a corridor, remind him of their secret nights, and threaten to expose him if he didn't deliver on the promise he once made to her. Whether she was bluffing or serious, Jonathan couldn't tell, but the fear of losing Sophia and the child made him tread carefully. As the pregnancy progressed, Jonathan took Sophia on a brief baby moon to Hawaii, where they spent a blissful week disconnected from the world. He thought he'd left all the drama behind, but on the last day, his phone chimed with a text from Veronica. It read, "Don't forget your promises, Jonathan. I'm not going anywhere." She had this uncanny ability to know exactly when and where to intrude, even if it was just to plant seeds of anxiety. Jonathan quickly deleted the message, forcing a smile as Sophia approached from the beach in a flowing floral sundress. The gulls cried overhead, and the cerulean ocean beckoned, but Jonathan's mind was already back in Los Angeles, grappling with how to keep his secret under control. Everything was now on the line: his child, his relationship, his prized reputation, and the Carlisle dynasty he was poised to inherit in full. He'd told Sophia she could have the world, and for her sake, he intended to deliver. The question that haunted him was, how long before Veronica demands the same, and what would he do if she did? As Sophia's pregnancy entered the second trimester, her once svelte figure began rounding with the promise of new life. The media, always hungry for headlines, became more intrusive. Paparazzi camped outside their home, capturing every growing bump and rumored wedding date. Yet Sophia found a strange sense of serenity in her new routine: morning yoga tailored for expectant mothers, afternoons spent planning charity events, and evenings cozying up with Jonathan to envision their future. But the dreamlike calm was shattered one afternoon when Sophia received a phone call from a blocked number. On the other end was a journalist from a tabloid gossip column demanding to know her thoughts on the Mistress scandal. At first, Sophia thought it was some disreputable publication fishing for a fabricated story until the journalist mentioned Veronica Morgan by name. "Sophia, we're giving you a chance to comment," the journalist insisted. "Veronica Morgan claims she's owed certain financial and emotional debts from Mr. Carlisle. Cared to respond?" Shaken, Sophia hung up, her heart pounding in her ears. Could the rumors be true? She recalled how Veronica always seemed too familiar with Jonathan, how he'd once brushed off her concerns as mere gossip. Now, a swirl of half-formed suspicions clouded her mind. Taking a deep breath, she tried to rationalize. Veronica was known for courting scandal. It could be a tactic to stir up publicity for herself. Jonathan had always denied any current involvement with her. Yes, he had a past, but he'd changed, hadn't he? Sophia spent the next hour pacing in the living room, her anxiety building with each step. She dialed Jonathan's number, but it went straight to voicemail. He was likely in a business meeting, she told herself. Finally, desperation overcame her, and she texted him, "Call me as soon as you can. Urgent." When Jonathan returned home that evening, his shirt collar undone and his tie askew, Sophia immediately confronted him about the journalist's call. His face paled. He reached out to hold her, but she stepped back. "I won't lie to you," he began. "Veronica and I had a history, but it was over long before I asked you to move in with me." Sophia's eyes welled with tears. "Then why does she claim you owe her something?" Jonathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Veronica has always been manipulative. She's probably trying to blackmail me. I promise whatever she's saying, it's not true anymore. I ended it." "Ended what, exactly?" Sophia pressed, her voice trembling. "Was it just casual, or did you have a real relationship with her?" He struggled to find the words. "It was never love. It was a fling, an escape, before I understood what real love felt like with you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't want you to worry." Tears slipped down Sophia's cheeks. She had hoped for reassurance that the rumors were baseless, but instead, she stood there, absorbing the shock that Jonathan had lied by omission. Could she trust him now? "I should have known about this, Jonathan. I'm carrying your child," she said, her voice trembling with both anger and heartbreak. Jonathan took a step closer, gently placing his hands on her arms. "Sophia, I'm sorry. Let me fix this. I'll talk to Veronica, make her stop spreading lies. You and our baby are the only ones that matter to me." She looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. Despite her rage and hurt, she knew she still loved him. Was it possible to forgive? She needed time. In the days that followed, an uneasy tension settled over the Carlisle home. Sophia oscillated between trying to maintain calm for the sake of her pregnancy and the burning urge to confront Veronica herself. Jonathan avoided making any direct contact with Veronica, choosing instead to let his legal team handle potential defamation issues, but that only fueled Veronica's hunger for a public showdown. A week later, Sophia found an envelope slipped under the door. Inside was a glossy photo of Jonathan and Veronica laughing intimately at what looked like a private penthouse party. The note read, "Once he promises the world, he always delivers. You should ask him who else he's sworn eternal devotion to." The revelation reignited all of Sophia's doubts. That night, Jonathan found her sitting in the dark, staring at the photo by the glow of a single lamp. Her silence was more piercing than any scream could have been. "She's trying to destroy us," Jonathan whispered, voice thick with guilt. "I'll do anything to keep our family whole." A single tear traced Sophia's cheek. "I just want honesty," she murmured. "No more secrets. Swear it on our child." And so Jonathan swore. But as he did, an ominous feeling took hold in Sophia's gut. Veronica's threat loomed over their lives like a gathering storm. If Jonathan wasn't telling the whole truth, the storm would surely break, and its devastation could be far greater than either of them had ever anticipated. The next few weeks were a slow crumble. Jonathan redoubled his efforts to maintain a veneer of normality. He arrived early to board meetings, orchestrated philanthropic events, and posted cheerful photos with Sophia on social media, showing the world a picture-perfect image of a growing family. Sophia, in turn, tried to hold herself together for the baby, focusing on her prenatal exercises, reading up on parenting guides, and occasionally joining Jonathan at social functions to quell the rumor mill. But beneath the polished exterior, tension gnawed at their relationship. The more Jonathan tried to control the narrative, the more rumors seemed to multiply. Veronica Morgan was careful never to publicly accuse him of any wrongdoing, but she dropped cryptic hints at every opportunity. "I've always believed in second chances," or "when a man promises the world, he should be careful not to promise it twice." She delivered these lines at charity dinners, in front of cameras, and in earshot of mutual acquaintances who loved to gossip. Sophia's confidence wavered every time she saw Veronica flaunting her perfect figure, lavish designer gowns, and carefully cultivated mystique. The woman was eerily skilled at psychological warfare. She never explicitly threatened, but her pointed remarks left little doubt she planned to expose Jonathan's secrets if it served her agenda. One afternoon, in a rare burst of courage, Sophia decided to confront Veronica at a fundraising event. She spotted Veronica in a tight black dress at the far end of the elegant ballroom, holding court among a circle of admirers. Sophia's heart pounded as she approached, each step echoing with the beat of her own apprehension. When Veronica saw Sophia, a slow smile curved her crimson lips. "Sophia Carlisle," she purred, though Sophia hadn't yet taken Jonathan's last name. "How lovely to finally speak with you." Sophia swallowed hard, gathering her composure. "I'm not here for pleasantries," she said quietly, mindful of the onlookers. "I want to know what you're after." Veronica tilted her head, feigning surprise. "After? My dear, I have everything I need. I'm merely ensuring I get what was promised." Sophia's hands clenched into fists at her sides. "Jonathan told me everything about your past. If you're trying to blackmail him, you won't succeed." The socialite let out a soft, dismissive laugh. Oh, Sophia, did you really think you'd be the first one to receive Jonathan's vow to give you the world? He and I were very close. We had plans. A swirl of emotions threatened to overwhelm Sophia: anger, fear, jealousy. Veronica's insinuations cut deep, fueling the quiet fear that Jonathan's devotion wasn't quite as unbreakable as he professed. "Whatever you had, it's over," she managed to say, her voice trembling. Veronica stepped closer, her tone gentler yet no less menacing. "You can have him, darling. I'm not interested in the man himself anymore. It's the promise he made that I'm collecting on." She placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder, almost in a gesture of pity. He'll learn that a promise, once broken, can cost more than he'd ever bargained for. Turning on her heel, Veronica walked away, leaving Sophia standing in the center of the bustling event, feeling alone and exposed. People glanced in her direction, their expressions a mix of curiosity and pity. She could almost hear the unspoken question on their minds: is Jonathan truly faithful or just a master manipulator? That night, Sophia locked herself in the guest bedroom, tears streaming down her face. Jonathan paced outside the door, knocking softly, begging her to let him in. She wanted to trust him, to believe in the future they had planned for their child. But Veronica's words kept replaying in her mind, sowing seeds of doubt that grew with each agonizing moment. Finally, Sophia opened the door. She was exhausted, her cheeks stained with tears. "Jonathan, I have to know everything," she said quietly. "I can't keep wondering what else you're hiding." Jonathan exhaled, a haunted look in his eyes. "I've told you all there is," he insisted. "I never promised Veronica anything worth holding on to. She's spinning half-truths for her own gain." Sophia studied his face, searching for any signs of deception. She found none, only desperation and sorrow. She allowed him to hold her, to press his forehead against hers, and whisper apologies into her hair. In that moment, she resolved to stand by him, for the sake of their unborn child, for the love she still believed existed between them. Yet the cracks were showing, and neither Jonathan nor Sophia could deny it. Each day that passed felt like walking on a frozen lake in springtime. One misstep, and everything could shatter. And in the background, Veronica Morgan loomed, poised to strike the final blow that could sink them both. Even as Jonathan and Sophia tried to weather the storm together, circumstances conspired to thrust Veronica Morgan fully into their lives once more. The Carlisle Family Foundation hosted an annual winter gala that brought together top business leaders, celebrities, and political figures to raise funds for medical research. Cancelling or scaling back wasn't an option. This event was the crowning jewel of the Carlisle philanthropic calendar, and it required Jonathan's full presence. Sophia, nearing the end of her second trimester, had reservations about attending such a high-pressure affair, but Jonathan insisted that her appearance would help dispel rumors of discord. Their public unity, he argued, would show everyone that they were still the perfect power couple, expecting their first child. With great reluctance, and after her doctor cleared the stress level, Sophia agreed to be part of the festivities. On the night of the gala, the banquet hall sparkled with icy blue decor, as shimmering chandeliers cast prismatic light across the polished floors. Sophia wore a flowing empire waistgown in midnight blue, which gracefully draped over her baby bump. Jonathan looked sharp in a custom-tailored tuxedo. Their entrance caused a flurry of camera flashes. Journalists clamored for quotes about the baby, the Carlisle empire, and their relationship status. Amid the sea of well-wishers, Jonathan spotted Veronica at the far side of the room, dressed in a daring, form-fitting gown of shimmering silver. She was in conversation with Robert Carlisle, Jonathan's father, who regarded her with a guarded expression. As soon as she caught sight of Jonathan and Sophia, Veronica's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. Throughout the evening, Veronica took every opportunity to make her presence felt. If Jonathan paused for a conversation with donors, she'd slide up beside him, offering a playful remark. If he shared a dance with Sophia, Veronica would circle the dance floor, eyeing him with predatory intent. The tension was palpable. Guests sensed something off-kilter in the Carlisle realm, but none dared ask openly. Late into the night, as the jazz band played a mellow tune, Jonathan stole a moment alone on the terrace to catch his breath. The crisp winter air bit his cheeks, a welcome reprieve from the stifling atmosphere inside. He was leaning against the balustrade, gazing at the distant skyline, when he heard the unmistakable click of high heels approaching. "You're rather elusive tonight," came Veronica's sultry voice. Jonathan turned, his face set in a cold mask. "What do you want, Veronica?" She took a step closer, her eyes reflecting the city lights. "You used to be more charming," she said, her tone a mock pout. "But since you're asking so directly, I want what you promised." He let out an exasperated sigh. "I never promised you anything beyond a good time, which was a mistake. I'm done with you." Veronica tossed her hair and drew a slim phone from her purse, pulling up an old text conversation. She turned the screen toward him, revealing messages where he spoke of expanding his empire and possibly including her in some business venture in Asia. The language was flirtatiously suggestive, with references to traveling the world together. "You may have forgotten, but I haven't," Veronica said, her voice dropping lower. "And this is only the beginning. I have far more damning evidence of our intimacy. So if you don't want your pregnant fiancé and the rest of the world to see the real you, you'll meet my demands." Jonathan's heart hammered in his chest. "Which are?" "A seat on the board of Carlisle and Sons' upcoming real estate venture in Dubai. For starters," Veronica purred, "with a generous stock allocation. Then we can discuss ongoing financial compensation for the heartbreak I've endured." Fury ignited in Jonathan, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You're a parasite," he growled. "You think you can blackmail me with some texts? Sophia knows I wasn't perfect before she came into my life." Veronica arched an eyebrow. "But does she know all the details? If I unleash those texts, pictures, and voice recordings, your precious family reputation will crumble. Investors will question your stability. Your father will be humiliated. And Sophia, well, she might lose faith in you entirely. Are you so certain she'll forgive everything?" Jonathan glared at her, torn between fear and loathing. He couldn't risk publicly disgracing his family, especially with his father already pushing the reins of the empire into his hands. And the thought of Sophia, pregnant and distressed by a scandal of this magnitude, twisted his stomach into knots. For a moment, he felt cornered, powerless. Veronica took his silence as a victory. "You have a week," she announced. "After that, I start leaking information piece by piece until you have nothing left. Enjoy the gala, darling." She swept back inside, leaving Jonathan seething on the terrace. Somewhere in the background, the band struck up a livelier tune, and laughter drifted through the open doors. But for Jonathan, the night had darkened irreparably. In that moment, he realized that if he couldn't find a way to neutralize Veronica's threats, the carefully constructed facade of his perfect life would come crashing down. In the days following the gala, Jonathan felt the weight of Veronica's ultimatum bearing down on him like a storm cloud. He rarely slept, consumed by the mental gymnastics of figuring out how to defuse the situation without sacrificing his integrity and without shattering Sophia's trust. Calls to his legal team offered little comfort. While they could threaten defamation suits, Veronica's evidence of Jonathan's flirtatious promises and partial business discussions could be damaging if twisted in the press. Meanwhile, Sophia noticed Jonathan's agitation, though she couldn't pinpoint the cause. Each time she tried to coax an explanation out of him, he brushed her off with vague reassurances or stilted half-truths about business stress. She wasn't convinced, But with her pregnancy entering the final trimester, she chose to conserve her energy rather than push for conflict until one fateful evening when her patience ran out. That night, Sophia was tidying up the living room, trying to distract herself from persistent back pains, when she stumbled across Jonathan's phone, buzzing on the coffee table. The screen displayed a string of texts from unknown messages reading, "Time's up soon. Don't make me release the first set of photos. We both know you can't afford that." Her blood ran cold. This was blackmail, plain and simple. Heart-pounding, she scrolled up, but the conversation history was blank, suggesting Jonathan had been deleting previous messages. A nauseating wave of realization washed over her. The rumors about Veronica weren't just rumor, they were an active threat. When Jonathan stepped into the room, he froze upon seeing Sophia holding his phone, her face pale. Before he could speak, she shook the device at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her voice cracking with anger and betrayal. Jonathan's shoulders sagged, and he swallowed hard. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me from what?" "From the fact that your mistress is blackmailing you." Her words sliced through the air, echoing in the room. He rubbed his temples, his expression anguished. "Sophia, it was a stupid mistake, something I thought was done and buried. Veronica's using whatever she has to threaten me for money, for status. I didn't want to burden you." She let out a hollow laugh. "I'm already burdened, Jonathan. I'm carrying your child. Don't you think I deserve to know the truth?" His eyes misted over, and he approached her cautiously. "I'm sorry. I was handling it. I still can." "How?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "By caving to her demands, by giving her everything she wants so she doesn't expose you." A painful silence settled. Neither spoke for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Jonathan admitted, "If I don't comply, she'll release evidence that could ruin the company's next venture and possibly our relationship. With my father's health declining and the board breathing down my neck, this scandal could destroy years of work." Sophia's eyes welled with tears. "So you'll just pay her off?" "I don't know," Jonathan confessed, "but I have to do something before our child arrives. I can't have this looming over us." In the days that followed, Jonathan wrestled with moral and practical dilemmas. He considered confronting Veronica publicly, but worried it would lead to an ugly lawsuit or a media circus. He contemplated offering her a bribe so large she'd never bother them again, but the thought of feeding her greed and potentially enabling further blackmail chilled him. As the clock ticked on Veronica's ultimatum, Jonathan sank deeper into desperation. Sophia, meanwhile, sought solace in her friend Carmen. She shared her fears, her heartbreak, and her anger at Jonathan for letting it reach this point. Carmen advised her to think about her own well-being and that of her baby above all else. If Jonathan was cowering to a blackmailer, perhaps Sophia needed to step away to find a sense of security on her own. The confrontation came to a head when Jonathan announced, late one evening, that he would fly to Dubai to finalize the Carlisle real estate venture. Sophia, suspecting he was using the trip to negotiate with Veronica, confronted him at the front door, suitcase in hand. "So this is it?" she said, arms crossed over her belly. "You're leaving me here, alone, while you go handle your mistress." "It's business," he insisted, bristling. "I'm meeting with our Dubai partners. Veronica might be there, but that doesn't mean—" "Don't treat me like a fool, Jonathan," Sophia cut in, her voice tired and resigned. "I've supported you, trusted you, but I can't bear watching you twist yourself into knots because of her threats. Either end this once and for all, or I don't know how we can move forward." He looked at her, the woman he claimed to love, pregnant with his child, tears brimming in her eyes. His throat tightened. "I promise I'll fix this," he said, voice hoarse. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I hope so, because there's more at stake now than your reputation." With that, Jonathan hauled his suitcase into the waiting car, heart heavy mind racing. As the limousine pulled away from the mansion, Sophia stood on the porch, cradling her baby bump, wondering if their world was on the brink of collapse. Neither knew how the next moves would shape the rest of their lives, but both sensed the final confrontation with Veronica was imminent, and it would determine whether Jonathan's promise to Sophia was truly worth anything at all. Dubai glimmered under the scorching sun, its futuristic skyline piercing the golden horizon. Jonathan stepped off his private jet, already feeling the weight of the desert heat and the even heavier burden of his predicament. Officially, he was there to meet potential investors for Carlisle and Son's grand real estate project along the city's coastline, an ambitious development of luxury condos and retail complexes. Unofficially, he was on a mission to outmaneuver Veronica Morgan. He checked into a lavish suite at the Burj Al Arab, then headed straight to a conference room where his father's old friend, Amir Bari, awaited. Amir was a seasoned real estate mogul, well connected in Middle Eastern markets. After exchanging pleasantries, Jonathan divulged the personal scandal overshadowing his visit. Amir, a quiet, thoughtful man, listened intently before giving his candid advice. "You can't negotiate from a position of weakness," Amir said. "She'll keep demanding more. You need leverage." Jonathan sighed. "What leverage could I possibly have? She's the one with the incriminating evidence." Amir leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Everyone has secrets, my friend. Perhaps it's time you find hers." Their meeting concluded with no immediate solution. Jonathan spent the afternoon reaching out to private investigators, explaining he needed discreet assistance in uncovering any potential skeletons in Veronica's closet. He was desperate, willing to cross ethical lines he never would have considered before. He told himself it was to protect Sophia and the baby. Yet a small voice in his head asked, would Sophia even approve of this ruthless approach if she knew? The next day, a scheduled meeting brought Jonathan face to face with Veronica in a high-rise boardroom overlooking the Persian Gulf. She arrived fashionably late, wearing a sleek designer suit and carrying an air of smug triumph. Executives from both Carlisle and Sons and the local partner firm were present, including some distant members of the Al Maktoum family, who greeted Jonathan warmly. Veronica smoothly introduced herself as a special advisor to Carlisle's new venture, raising eyebrows and forging new questions. Her involvement was obviously unauthorized, but her confidence radiated the implication that she already had the power to insert herself where she pleased. After the formal session, Veronica slipped into an adjacent conference room. Jonathan, bracing himself, followed her. She wasted no time. "I see you haven't given me an answer," she said, crossing her arms. "You're running out of time, Jonathan." He clenched his jaw. "I won't be blackmailed." She gave a derisive snort, then prepared to face the consequences. "I have a file ready to send to every major business news outlet. Texts, voice clips, pictures enough to prove you're not the shining heir you claim to be." Jonathan's hand balled into a fist at his side. "This is extortion." Veronica shrugged. "Use whatever word you like. It's your choice. Let me into this deal. Give me a board seat, stock shares, and a generous settlement, or watch everything you love burn." Even as terror knotted his stomach, Jonathan's phone buzzed in his pocket, interrupting them. He glanced at the screen, an investigator's update. Quickly he excused himself and read the text. It contained a tantalizing thread of information. Veronica had significant debts in Europe, including lawsuits filed in Monaco for breach of contract. She had apparently seduced a wealthy French nobleman, then stolen jewels worth millions. The case was pending, but hush hush. If Jonathan exposed this, Veronica's reputation could be equally ruined. His heart thundered. Leverage. Suddenly, the idea of turning the tables felt possible. But how would Sophia react to him diving into the same dirty tactics Veronica used? That night, Jonathan stood on his hotel balcony, gazing at the glittering lights of Dubai. He called Sophia, needing to hear her voice. She sounded tired, burdened by loneliness and the stress of advanced pregnancy. He explained that he was close to a resolution, though he spared her the details. Sophia's relief was palpable, but so was her lingering hurt. They ended the call with tender words, even though an emotional gulf still separated them. The following morning, Jonathan arranged a clandestine meeting with Veronica at a private lounge, presenting an air of resignation. Over an opulent breakfast, he slid a portfolio across the table, photographs of her involvement in the jewel theft in Monaco, along with photocopies of legal complaints. Veronica's eyes widened. "Where did you? This is a fraction of what I have," Jonathan lied, feigning greater knowledge. "I wonder how your current acquaintances would feel if they knew about your extracurricular activities." Her lips thinned, color draining from her face. He pressed on. "I'm prepared to keep all of this confidential, but only if you destroy every last piece of evidence you have on me and never contact me or Sophia again. If you refuse, I'll ensure this goes public. The tabloids will relish a cross-continental scandal involving stolen jewels and a fraudulent socialite." Veronica trembled with rage. "You can't do this." "You have no idea." "No, you have no idea," Jonathan cut her off. His voice was low, fierce. "You threatened my family, my child. I won't let you near them again." She stared at him, hatred emanating from every pore. After several long moments, she exhaled shakily, knowing she was cornered. "Fine," she hissed. "You win for now." They agreed on a mutual release of blackmail material, facilitated by a neutral law firm. Jonathan watched Veronica depart, her posture stiff, her expression venomous. He felt both relief and a strange hollowness. He'd waded into a moral quagmire, fighting blackmail with blackmail. Would Sophia ever forgive him if she learned the truth? That question gnawed at him, but for now, securing their future took precedence. As Jonathan boarded his jet back to Los Angeles, he believed he'd averted disaster. He would arrive in time for Sophia's latest prenatal checkup, hopefully with good news. The mistress was gone. Their child's future was safe. Yet he couldn't shake the sense that something irreparable had happened. Promises to Sophia, once built on love, were now overshadowed by a labyrinth of lies, manipulations, and near betrayals. Whether they could truly rebuild the trust they once shared remained to be seen. Jonathan landed in Los Angeles before dawn, exhaustion weighting his every step as he disembarked the jet. The city lights glimmered beneath a rapidly brightening sky, and he couldn't wait to surprise Sophia at home. With Veronica seemingly neutralized, he carried renewed hope that they could salvage their relationship and prepare for the arrival of their baby in peace. However, as soon as Jonathan's car pulled up to their Beverly Hills mansion, he sensed something was off. The gate stood slightly ajar, and a light was on in the living room, despite the early hour. Heart thudding, he rushed inside, luggage forgotten on the driveway. He found Sophia awake, a half-packed suitcase open on the floor beside her. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked up at him, emotion flickering across her face, anger, relief, heartbreak, and something that looked suspiciously like resignation. "What's going on?" Jonathan asked, breathless. She took a shaky breath. "I got a call from Veronica last night. She told me everything, that you blackmailed her, that you threatened to ruin her. She said you're no better than she is." Jonathan's face darkened. "She's just trying to get revenge. I had to protect us, Sophia, and this was the only way." Tears welled in her eyes. "Couldn't you have told me?" Instead, I'm blindsided by her phone call, hearing how my fiancé descended to the same level as the woman who tried to destroy us. All the secrets, Jonathan, the half-truths, the manipulations. It never ends. He moved toward her, his voice urgent. "You don't understand. She was going to ruin our family. I had to fight back." Sophia swallowed, glancing at the half-packed suitcase. "And what will you do next time someone threatens you? Is this how you handle problems by going behind my back and using underhanded tactics. Her words struck like a hammer. Jonathan's bravado deflated, replaced by remorse. "I'm sorry," he whispered, reaching out to her. "I never wanted to do anything that would hurt you. I love you and our baby." For a moment, Sophia allowed his hand to brush hers. She could feel the sincerity in his trembling fingers, the desperation. "I know you love us," she whispered. "But love without trust is—" She didn't finish the sentence, tears overcoming her. Jonathan gently guided her to the couch, kneeling beside her. "Please don't leave," he implored, gesturing at the suitcase. "We can work this out, start fresh. I swear to you, all ties with Veronica are cut. She has no leverage left. The future is ours to rebuild." She looked at him, torn between her love for him and her own well-being. The baby kicked, a reminder that her decisions now affected more than just her own life. "Jonathan, I need to think," she finally said, her voice shaky. "I don't want to end up in a constant cycle of secrets. I want a stable environment for our child." Jonathan nodded, tears in his eyes. "Take your time. Stay here, at least until the baby's born. Let me prove that I can be the man you deserve." For a few days, they lived in a fragile truce. Jonathan cancelled his business meetings, focusing solely on Sophia's health and emotional state. He arranged for a private childbirth class, hired the best baby nurse consultant, and did everything in his power to make Sophia feel secure. Yet an unspoken tension lingered. Could trust ever fully be restored? Eventually, Sophia's due date loomed. She went into labor on a quiet afternoon, rushed to the hospital with Jonathan by her side. The labor was long and arduous, but their baby girl, whom they named Isabella, entered the world with a spirited cry. In that hushed moment in the delivery room, Jonathan cradled his daughter, tears streaming down his face, and Sophia gazed at him with a flicker of the tenderness she once had. For a brief, precious time, they forgot their wounds. They forgot Veronica, the scandal, the betrayals. They were simply a new family, holding their tiny miracle. And in Isabella's bright eyes, they both saw a future that was still unwritten. Back home, during late-night feedings and quiet dawns, Jonathan poured himself into fatherhood. He would watch Isabella sleep for hours, marveling at her every breath. Sophia found herself smiling at his devotion, yet she couldn't entirely shake the residual hurt. Each day, Jonathan tried to show her that his love was real, that he was prepared to be a man of integrity, a father who would shield his family without resorting to deception. Months passed, and life took on a semblance of normalcy. The media chatter died down. Veronica faded from the public eye, presumably licking her wounds from afar. Jonathan balanced being a CEO and a father, while Sophia devoted herself to motherhood and slowly returned to her charitable activities. They appeared from a distance as a content, enviable family. But behind the scenes, the scars remained. Jonathan had promised Sophia the world, and then he'd nearly given it to another. He had seen how easily wealth, ambition, and secrets could erode the foundations of love. And Sophia had learned how quickly a fairy tale romance could transform into a tangled web of lies and blackmail. For now, they carried on together, forging a path that balanced hope and caution. Yet the unanswered question lingered. Had they truly triumphed over their past, or had they simply buried its remnants beneath the glittering veneer of their once perfect lives? Summer sunlight streamed through the Carlisle mansion's floor to ceiling windows, illuminating the once silent hallways with soft laughter. Isabella, now a bright-eyed toddler, toddled across the marble floors, chasing the family's new golden retriever puppy. Sophia sat on the sofa, a magazine open on her lap, but her attention fixated on the joyful play unfolding before her. Her heart swelled every time she saw Isabella's beaming face, a reminder of the love that had survived so many trials. Jonathan, coming home from a morning meeting, paused at the sight of his daughter's exuberance. He scooped her up into his arms, blowing a playful raspberry on her cheek. Isabella squealed in delight, making Sophia smile. For a moment, they were an idyllic snapshot of family life, an image that could grace the pages of any high society magazine, a far cry from the turbulence that once threatened to tear them apart. Yet, in private moments, both Jonathan and Sophia remained aware of the delicate threads holding their life together. Every so often, old wounds would surface, such as when an old article referencing Veronica Morgan's name popped up, or when Jonathan had to travel overseas on business, prompting Sophia's lingering worries. Over time, they'd learned to communicate more openly. Whenever doubt gnawed, they talked it through, rather than letting it fester. They sought counseling, both individually and as a couple, to address the trust issues and emotional scars. They put in the work day by day, reminding each other why they had chosen to stay. Meanwhile, Carlisle and Sons imports continued to thrive. Jonathan's father, Robert, officially retired, passing full leadership to Jonathan. The real estate venture in Dubai had taken off spectacularly, adding billions to the family's fortune. Jonathan found he no longer basked in that success for its own sake. Instead, he viewed it as a means to secure Isabella's future, to fund philanthropic causes dear to Sophia's heart, and perhaps to atone for the damage wrought by the shadows of greed and deceit. Veronica Morgan, for her part, was seldom mentioned anymore. Rumors swirled that she had relocated to Europe, possibly to face her legal troubles. Jonathan silently hoped she'd find a new path, if only so she wouldn't re-emerge with more schemes. He had relinquished the blackmail material he held against her, storing it away in a vault managed by his attorneys, to be destroyed if 3 years passed without any attempt at retaliation. He didn't wish her ill, he simply wanted her gone. On a warm Sunday afternoon, the family gathered in the backyard to host a small celebration for Isabella's 2nd birthday. Close friends arrived, bearing gifts wrapped in ribbons and bright paper. Laughter and music drifted through the garden. Sophia held Jonathan's hand as they watched their daughter, face smeared with frosting, trying to blow out her candles. As they gazed at that tiny flame flickering on the cake, they knew it represented more than just a birthday wish. It stood for hope, the hope that their love, tested by betrayal and upheaval, could still endure. It stood for the promise of a future shaped not by illusions or dark bargains, but by genuine devotion and transparency. And as Isabella finally managed to snuff out the candle, cheers erupted around them. In that moment, perhaps for the first time since the turmoil began, Jonathan and Sophia truly believed in the chance for a happily ever after, hard-earned, imperfect, but undeniably theirs. Thank you for joining us on this roller coaster journey of power, passion, and betrayal, where love was tested by secrets and promises were warped by greed. Jonathan Carlisle's vow to give Sophia the world nearly tore them apart when he handed his fortune and attention to another woman instead. Yet their story is also one of resilience, overcoming the shadows of blackmail and doubt, choosing to fight for each other when all seemed lost, and holding on to hope in the face of heartbreak. If you found yourself caught up in the twists and turns of this real-life drama fiction, please support our channel by giving this video a like, sharing it with friends who love an intense story, and subscribing to stay updated on our latest uploads. Your support helps us continue bringing compelling tales of passion, betrayal, and redemption to life. Thank you, and see you in the next video.